Test.
Test.
Da, 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 da.
Out of 100 applications, less than 10 are actually worth looking at.
You were crossing U.S Mexico border every day.
Through 3 bridges. That's how I crossed in my yellow bike.
Just a little bike every day.
I am the youngest of 13. A backup singer for Whitney Houston.
Taylor, what do you have to say? Hi everyone, this is Tianyu. We have a very special guest today. Let's welcome JC.
Hello everybody. Tianyu, thank you so much for having me. It is my pleasure to be here, and I am very much looking forward to sharing my story with you all. Thank you.
We'll have so much to chat about.
Thank you.
So a little bit introduction. JC has a decade-long experience as a senior manager and director as UX for various companies, including ZipRecruiter, where I reported to you. And luckily, we became friends too through our employment.
That's right.
But before we get into UX, I like to rewind a bit. So I think you have a fascinating story.
Thank you, Tianyu.
Life story. You were born in a small village at Durango, U.S Mexico border.
North Central, but yes, close to the border.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were youngest of 13 kids.
That's right, 13 children.
How you got an education? Your education was also just unbelievable. You were crossing U.S Mexico border every day. So I think I like to dive into that story a bit more.
Thank you, Tianyu. So that's right. I am the youngest of 13. I was born in Durango, Mexico, and then we moved to the border, the Twin Cities. So we moved there in 1989. I was 6. Thanks to my mother, really. She took 7 of us, the youngest, from the village, and thanks to her, 5 of us have college degrees. I really ended up going to university because of a casual event. I think I was 12 years old when, through a mutual friend in secondary school in Mexico, I learned that Mexican nationals who lived in Juarez on the border, they could be eligible to actually study in America. So
without a student visa.
Yes, you had to apply for a student visa. But the thing that is special about this program, and I think they still have it, it's called a passive program, if you want to look it up. They charge you as a resident. So we made it more affordable, but yes, you still have to go through the visa process. But fast forward 10, 12 years later, I graduated with honors, and I was able to move to Los Angeles, where I live now, and really build a successful career in UX.
That's amazing. And what was it like crossing the border? Because that's very new for immigrants like me, coming from a totally different continent, and we had to fly thousands of miles, but you were going to studying abroad basically every day, crossing the border. That's just really fascinating. Can you tell us a bit more, like what was it like?
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up to you for me, because when you live in Juarez, you can actually see the border across the street, quote unquote, right?
There was no wall?
No wall. There's only a river. It's called the Rio Grande River, and you have to cross through 3 bridges, international bridges. And that's how I crossed in my bright yellow bike.
Just a little bike every day.
That's right. I used to ride a yellow bike that I bought at Walmart, mind you, for $100 at the time. I used to cross every day. At the beginning, the custom officers would be like incredulous. They really didn't believe that I was going to college in my bike. I remember the first encounters that I had with them. They would ask me to lift out my t-shirt or lift out my trousers to make sure that I didn't have anything illegal on me. They would check my backpack. It was very unusual at the time. This is the early 2000s. For someone to actually cross the border on a bicycle to actually go to school. I remember it being kind of unusual, but at the same time inspiring, because even though I didn't have a better way to commute, a bike was the only option, and I really didn't feel any way about it. I just did it.
It's a good workout.
It was a good workout. Yes, it was actually a good workout. Yeah.
And then what happened?
So I was admitted into their design and journalism program at UTEP, the University of Texas at El Paso. I think on my 3rd year, I was able to get an internship at a design agency in El Paso. It was called the Stanton Street Group. And then from there, I ended up working at the local newspaper. And I got that job because a teacher from the university recommended me.
Sorry to interrupt, but that was how I got my first U.S. part-time / internship too. A professor recommended me.
And isn't that fantastic that they see your talent and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to support this person or this student because I see how hard they work. Share your story. What happened there?
Yeah, so when I was in Michigan State, professor there, I guess he saw my talent. And then one day he called me to his office saying, oh, there's this local tech companies and looking for UI design intern and give it a try. And I did interviews and eventually I got my first US job.
That's incredible. And I think for many of us, the connections that we make either with faculty, professors, or colleagues are really important. It's just a matter of like being open to those opportunities and being self-aware when they appear. But that's great. Mm-hmm.
And then what took you to Los Angeles?
So I was still working at the newspaper, writing the news, but I noticed that the viewership and the readership of the newspaper was dying. So I was trying to make a switch to digital, which at the time, I don't want to age myself, was really not a thing. It was starting to become a thing. And I remember taking classes in digital design but the editor at the newspaper called me out of the blue and he had moved to Los Angeles and he said, I can connect you with someone at a TV station in LA. Are you interested? I said, of course. So I literally just took all my stuff and got rid of what I could and drove west and never looked back. I got to Los Angeles and then I ended up working at a TV station in Burbank. But that really wasn't a good fit for me. The pay and the hours were crazy. So I decided to make a switch to digital.
And that's how you started your journey in UX.
So I went back to my desk. I found the job on monster.com. And then I found the job as a marketing optimization designer. That was the job title. And then I literally was hired for a company in Santa Monica to design banners and landers and registration flows. And to me, that was, in a sense, UX, but we used to call it like marketing optimization for some reason. But that's what I ended up doing for a few years.
So now you're in UX.
Yes.
And at that time, UX is still a very new thing, right? What was it like, the early stage of UX?
I don't think we called it UX. I think we were just doing optimization for websites. But the thing that really led me to the jump to a proper UX field that we consider today is because I was curious. Mm-hmm. I was asking questions because I was designing banners and pages, but I didn't know who these people were, who these users were, where were they coming from, and after they clicked on that banner, where they were actually landing. So I think asking questions really got me serendipitously into the field of UX because my manager at the time, it was a French woman who is one of my dear mentors, told me, you should look into UX, JC. Have you looked at that field? And basically, that was the first time that I heard it vocalized. I went back to school and took a few courses at UCLA Extension to specialize in that.
But I think your story of how you got from just design to official UX world and showed the essence of UX is to ask the whys. It's not just to do the what, but that's to understand who are we designing for, why we design in this way. As an early participant in the UX world, I wonder if you also had those moments of self-doubt, doubting, oh, am I in the right field? And is this promising?
Your questions are very deep, Kenny.
That's what I do for the job, as you know.
I can tell. So I think self-doubt is universal. It's not something that only applies to UX. And going back to the immigration story, particularly for people like us coming from different countries and having that language barrier and really trying to, build a career that is meaningful, it creates a lot of self-doubt. In my view, this is my unique perspective and experience. You have to welcome it because it will never go away. It only gets better. Everybody has these thoughts. They're not unique to me. Like, they don't apply in any particular way or fashion to me. I'm not being victimized. And once you understand that, you just sort of learn how to manage that expectation with yourself, but also acknowledge the fact that it's normal. I think the second part of your question is, it was definitely a new field. So I think what really helped me was to going back to school and taking those courses in UXR at UCLA Extension really framed all the questions that I was asking, all the things that I was being curious about into frameworks. And honestly, after taking those classes and making that like reframing in my mind, my career just took off.
So what you shared is like, I 100% embracing self-doubt. I think something that I myself, and I know a lot of people are constantly working on imposter syndrome. And also you mentioned proactively identifying the gap in your professional capabilities, the knowledge you have kind of pushes you continuously being forward, having that growth mindset. One thing you have mentioned about, being immigrants and having this self-doubt, particularly about speaking up, the language barrier, right?
Yeah.
How do I deliver what I mean in a timely manner is, I think, every immigrant probably had dealt with. Any thoughts to share on that front?
I'm guessing it's a two-part answer. I think as a professional, if you want to get into the field of product design and UX, having a perspective that is unique about the product that you're working for, the feature that you really want to develop, you really have to understand why you are excited about that. I believe that, to your point, is not just about making things pretty, but product design and UX, it's really about solving problems. And you as a professional, when you have an understanding of that and you can clearly communicate that, even if you have an accent, even if your English isn't perfect, I give more credit to people who really understand the role. You don't need to have a managerial or director title to actually speak up. It has to do more with your understanding and how you actually pitch yourself. When you are looking for a job and the first phone call is typically with a hiring manager, it is really important that you actually have a compelling story to tell. Do you understand your impact? Do you understand why you were working on such projects? I think when you are able to really understand the why and understand your role and explain that role in that initial interview is critical. I also look for people who have a point of view and who are curious and ask a lot of questions.
In my view, you are one of the best people knowing how to manage up. What are your secret sauce for managing up?
Broadly speaking, executives and leaders of any company hate surprises. So communicate often and communicate early. The second thing that I would highlight when managing up is, again, speaking the language of business. We have to talk to cross-functional partners, really understand what are the objectives, short-term and long-term, of the business, and figure out a way to align your narrative and your work to that strategy. No matter where you go, no matter what company you work for or what industry you end up working for, that push and pull will never go away. Yeah. For newer designers who are fresh out of school, they have this mindset, and it's not necessarily bad. They think that it will be rosy and utopian and perfect after you start working. It's never like that.
No, that was me. Yeah, definitely.
So just get comfortable that you are still an advocate, but in essence, it is important that you also understand the business model of the company that you're working for. What is the monetization model?
I've seen some really good practices from our org that designers will come out with a few options and articulate the pros and cons of each option from the user perspective, from UX perspective, and then from business perspective. Evaluate them with cross-functional stakeholders and land on a place that where everybody feels it's a good trade-off. AI is taking over. AI is doing so much what we were doing and doing it better, faster. Everybody is wondering what's going to happen to our profession.
Being a UXR professional and having been a product designer myself, after having worked with researchers like yourself, I believe it is okay to embrace this new capability. Don't shy away from it. I think it is okay to embrace AI as a capability. If you want to learn something about it, definitely go ahead and take a course or whatever have you so that you can feel more confident. I see this technology as a way to optimize our workflows. The AI, it's missing that human aspect of it. I don't think we've reached that point in which people feel comfortable talking to a bot. AI can give you a wireframe or an image that is unpolished, but it could guide you. They have to present the design and get in the room with stakeholders and really build that narrative. And to me, that has to be a human. And I think being able to see another human face to face and relate to them at that level, it's something that AI cannot do today.
What advice would you give to the product designers?
AI is an opportunity to actually take yourself to the next level. It goes back to my earlier point of really understanding the technology better. I think there's some anxiety that we need to acknowledge that people are experiencing. But I also believe that if you're passionate about a particular product or a particular company, it is up to you to really figure out, like, do I really like this product? What value would I add even with all this new technology? And finding that narrative so that when you interview, you have a clear idea of how your skills and experience and you being human fits into that opportunity that you might be seeking out. The obstacle becomes a way, I think, becoming more knowledgeable about AI.
So I often hear people say that, oh my God, there are already hundreds of people applied for this job that just posted hours ago. Do I even stand a chance? Or they feel just this visible urgency to apply as many jobs as possible because there's so many other people are applying for those jobs. So it's a FOMO mindset, right? So I want to get your perspective as a hiring manager because you can see all the applicants coming in and how do you evaluate them?
I think that word FOMO and urgency really captures what I'm about to say. But as a job seeker, I think there's a lot of value in you being discerning, like really evaluating whether or not you want to apply for the job, like really go there and read the job ad in detail. Is this something that you are truly qualified for and something that would make you happy? I think being more discerning gives you the ability to first get excited and to prepare better that job application versus just clicking around and applying for a bunch of jobs without really understanding. And on the other end of the spectrum, because we've done research with job seekers and employers, I have seen hiring managers go through the list of applicants and really just dismiss the ones that are clearly an afterthought. So don't be an afterthought. Like instead of applying to 100 jobs, really find 10, 15 companies whose values align with yours and whose job ads really align with something that excites you and you want to do in the future. To me, that is a better approach, like going over quality versus volume. To make you stand out. Don't worry about the fact that 100 or so people have already applied. Focus and do the best job that you can on your job application. And another thing that would help you is if you have a connection on LinkedIn or what have you of people who are working at that company or that know the hiring manager, definitely try to do that. Like try to make yourself stand out. But again, landing my thought here, be discerning, be informed, go for volume over quantity.
Go for volume over quantity.
Quality over volume. Okay. Go for quality over volume. This is anecdotal data and a lot of it is qualitative, things that we've heard from recruiters. I think out of 100 applications, less than 10 are actually worth looking at. And this is information that I've gathered through employer research that I've done for many years. We don't want your application to end up in that pile. So be intentional, reach out to the recruiter, write a cover letter if you can, and be really informed about why you are applying for that job.
All right, JC. Now we enter the fun part.
All right.
Some really short questions. Let's go.
Okay.
Favorite UX book?
It is called How to Make Sense of Any Mess. Oh, I have it right here. How to Make Sense of Any Mess by Avi Covert. It's a great little pocketbook. You'll thank me later. Trust me.
What is the superpower of these product designers?
You have the ability to show, not just tell. What I mean by that is use your expertise to actually create an artifact to facilitate a conversation. Like that is a unique skill that you should learn how to leverage, and it's a superpower.
Your favorite work phrase? I think I know that.
Take a guess.
We'll manage.
We will manage.
We'll manage. That always calms me down.
That's right. No matter what happens in the workplace, if things are going crazy, trust me, we will manage.
How do you recharge when it gets a little crazy at work?
I work out.
Can't you see?
I work out.
Wow.
So what would you be doing if you're not a UXer?
Oh, Jesus. A backup singer for Whitney Houston. How about that?
I never heard you singing. No,
I would, just to be a good backup singer for a great voice.
Like this?
Yeah, on the background.
Roving?
Yeah. How about that?
We gotta go karaoke. All right, that's it. Thank you for answering all my questions, short or long, easy or hard. I guess Kato says that's it.
That's it.
Wrap up.
Thank you, Tini, for having me. It's been a pleasure sharing my story. I have never been interviewed before about my career, but I found it stimulating and keep the conversation going. Reach out to me, reach out to Tini, or drop a comment. And let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for having me.